Hello, gentlemen. Which one of you is Master Jack Cracklock? An excerpt from page 116 of The Lost and the Departed by Deegan. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and to the review of The Lost and the Departed by Deegan. This is another exciting novel from the adeptness of Deegan. You know, I've been a lover of his work so far. After discovering his first book, The Cracklock Saga, Far and Full, I've become enamored with the storytelling techniques. His writing style is quite dynamic. They read quite interestingly, and I've been so much fascinated with his use of words. I love his storytelling techniques. I love his characterization, and I'm a fan of his works. And now that I've come in contact with the book, The Lost and the Departed, I'm looking forward to reading the third book, Alice and the Mirror Glass. My review of this book, The Lost and the Departed, is actually going to be a spoiler-free. I won't be talking too much about the book. I just want to give you a short video book recommendation for you to have an idea of what Deegan has had to communicate in this fantastic book. But before I move into that, I'd love to read to you the synopsis of the book. There are other places, other realms, and they are wonderful, but not for much longer if the Cracklock have their way. Jack's world has changed beyond all comprehension. He has fairy friends, his dad's whereabouts are a mystery, and his estranged family want him in their custody. And then there is the mysterious tube, the one with the tube eyes that talks in your head. The Cracklock will destroy everything. That is a definite if their terrible plan comes to fruition. Jack and his friends have to stop them, and that is going to be more difficult than they could ever believe. And this is what you start to experience reading The Lost and the Departed. I so much love it because the book is actually full of action. It is full of some dynamic feature, many of which made for an interesting read. Following on from the adventure that Jack and his other friends have in the first book, Far and Full, which I previously reviewed some months ago, it's quite exciting to see how this mysterious story is developed in The Lost and the Departed. Picking up from what happened to Jack earlier on, you know, Anastasia and her wicked son Benedict had attacked Jack's house, but unfortunately they did not make Jack at home, and so they met AC, they met Sammy, and they met Dorcas. So in the process, you know, AC tried her possible best to prevent herself, but Anastasia magic was quite beyond description, and as such, AC was wounded and she was taken to the hospital, and that's where the story here begins. So once they get to the hospital, once Sammy and AC get to the hospital, they were visited by the wicked character Machia, which is one of those characters that I actually love, but I hated his feature, I hated his personality. Together with Anastasia and Agatha, I really hate them, but I love their characterization. And that's one thing that I love about the characterization of this book. They made it read like the actor of a movie in a way whereby you love some actors and you hated the other ones. So Machia visited Sammy in the hospital, and he was able to tell her that David is not dead, that David is somewhere mixing. This is actually a fact that Sammy is not well grounded with. This is something that has been obscure with her for a very long time. You know, she was made to believe that David was dead. She actually ordinarily did not know that her husband David was not dead. So after the whole conversation, X wake up and she had to send Marcia away and said, please, you have to leave. I don't want you here, because I think she has experienced some terrible things with Marcia in time past. So the whole story goes on, and Sammy began to seek for the truth. She asked AC, is it true that my husband David is not dead? Is it true that I can still see him again? Is it true that he's missing? I thought he's dead. And you know, AC had no option than to come out plain to Sammy. She told her about the story. It was like, you should be able to remember. Think very well, you should be able to remember. And so AC actually helped Sammy. She removed something like a glamour that was placed on her head. Actually, this sort of glamour was intentional because it is actually placed on Sammy based on David's approval. So Sammy began to remember the whereabouts of David. She began to gain knowledge. The memory of her husband David began to come to her, and she was able to understand the sort of the last conversation they had, the situation they had with other things. And towards the beginning couple of chapters of the book actually was made to expound on Sammy's remembrance of her long missing husband David. Okay, to move into another transition, because the story is actually written based on different transition, and that's why I love the book. You can experience one characterization at this point, and you move into the other characters in a sort of a dynamic manner. Coming back now to my most admirable crew of friends, the gang. I love to call them the gangster. They are Dorcas, Jack, Jimmy, and Femi. These people are quite amazing. After they've escaped from the wicked beasts that seek to kill them, Lasivok, I don't know how it's been pronounced, but I'll call it Lasivok. So they eventually got him, and once they got him, they were shocked to meet everywhere in shambles. Jimmy was quite surprised, and Jack was like, "Where is mom?" Dorcas told them the truth, what happened, that Anastasia had visited them and had attacked them, and AC and Sammy are currently in the hospital. But to cut the long story short, they eventually came in, and they were quite excited that nobody was harmed, nobody was killed, and AC is recovering pretty much fine. They were introduced to a sort of an amazing character that I love in the book, Rolly, which actually stays inside a tube and communicates to their head. So they gang up together, they combine together, they unite themselves together, and Rolly was able to provide something like a solution to the problem that they currently have on ground. So they all come together and they had to visit Rolly's world. Once they visit Rolly's world, they were made to know a lot of mysteries, things that had long been hidden from them. They were made to know about the indulgence of the wicked Dr. Cracklock. They were also made to know about the indulgence, the whereabouts of David. And funny enough, David had been to the realm of the Rolly. That's the Rolly's realm, whereby you see pillars almost everywhere, and this part actually reads quite dynamically. Rolly was able to communicate with them, and when they were actually there, that some people based on the Rolly world, they were able to be resuscitated by Jack's blood. And all of this actually make them to combine together. And once they realized that, they were able to make a team together in order to fight the Cracklock, in order to see themselves overcome these wicked people that are desperately after Jack's life. So once they gained a lot of knowledge, Rolly was able to show them a letter that David, Jack's father, who he wrote and dropped on the altar. David had addressed the letter to his friend Timothy. They actually learned all of this in the realm. Now coming into another sort of a transition, because that's one thing I love about the book. It's written in different transition. Once I talk about the character in this aspect, you move into another sort of characterization. Now let's come back to the stupid, silly Lafayette twins. I actually hated these twins because they are quite obstinate. They are very stupid. And from reading the Fox book series, they've actually made up their mind that they are not going to work together with Anastasia because they've seen that she has some sort of weird power. But Anastasia again had called them on the phone and said, "Hey boy, I have another work for you. Please go to Jack's house, stay in there, and let me know whenever they return." With that, the Lafayette twins are made to work also in order to aid Anastasia. And Anastasia helped them to get into the house. They eat somewhere. And so, once the other people return from the Rolly's world, the Lafayette twins, Maxine and Tally, quickly place a call to Anastasia and tell them that, they are now at home. So the whole thing move on, the story keep unfolding in a dynamic manner, and AC made a kind of a trick in a way whereby they would invite Marcia and tell them that they're going to deliver Jack into his hand for something else. But they were suddenly attacked by Marcia and Anastasia. Here was quite very funny. It made them sound a little bit powerless. Not really powerless, but since they were being captured, they couldn't do much Jack, Sammy, Jimmy were actually captured and AC was left defeated. That's how they were taken away to their house thereabout. So when the whole act was actually going on, Sammy and Timothy were the only one that not at home. Jimmy was also there, and in the process of Jimmy there, Matcha placed something like a tube on Jimmy and he was like screaming, this is something that's actually going to suck out life out of you. And Jimmy was turning into rage, frustrated, screaming, and Jack couldn't bear it anymore. They communicated with Rolly. Rolly communicated with AC, and this part actually read quite interesting. It actually read quite interestingly. However, they were able to capture Jack, AC, Dorcas, and Femi. So that's how they left, and they left Jimmy in the end of the Lafayette twins so that they can deal with him. So in the whole process, when the Lafayette twins were going to hurt Jimmy the more, this part actually read quite funny, and that's one thing I love about the book. The book is actually quite humorous, and there's some point I read and I was laughing uncontrollably. Once the Lafayette twins plan on hurting Jimmy, something funny happened and Rolly came to help Jimmy, and Jimmy did the same thing back to the Lafayette twin, and that's how they ran away. This part is actually very much funny. So that's how the story turned on, and here Sammy and Timothy suddenly come home. Once they come home, they discover that something has gone weird, and Jimmy explained what happened and how he was the only one spared and Masha took the other away. So they began to work together in order to retrieve their captured friends. And here Rolly, together with Jimmy, together with Sammy and Timothy, come together. They begin to think quite amazingly on what they could do to retrieve their friends again, to get their friends back. And Jimmy came up with an idea to visit Mr. Binks. Once they get to Mr. Binks' house, Mr. Binks was actually going to use Faye to pursue them away, but now they've gained a lot of knowledge. They were able to capture the red caps that Mr. Binks planned on sending to them, and to get the truth out of Mr. Binks. It is quite surprising, and I was quite shocked that Mr. Binks was actually instigated by Dr. Cracklock in order to attack this innocent set of people. In the first book series, Mr. Binks is actually sort of an amazing character, and I stylishly seem to hate him. But getting to know the reality now in the second book series made me sort of have a sort of an compassion towards him. So they actually came in term. They made an agreement that, okay, you're gonna tell us the location where our captured friend is. In reward to that, and we're going to release you, we're going to loose you, because the Cracklock has actually banned Mr. Binks in order to make him to pay obeisance to whatsoever they told him to do. So Mr. Binks was loosed, and based on Rolly's amazing feature, was kept into the cartulary in order to prevent him from playing smartly. And so he gave them the address which he has written in a piece of paper, and from there they were able to trace their way back to where their friends were captured. So here I love Sammy, I love Rolly, I love Jimmy, and I love Timothy's imagination. They actually came together and worked quite well. They began to drive far into the houses to locate their captured friend, and something quite exceptional happened on the way, which was quite very funny. Whenever they get to the point whereby they were going to be stopped by maybe security men, Jimmy is somebody that I love so much. I love his smartness, I love his cleverness. All story actually keep moving on to the help of Rolly, to the intelligence that Sammy and Jimmy are together. They were able to find their way into the house. And once I get into the house, something exceptional happened. Now it will make me come into the other transition. AC and Jack was kept inside the same dungeon, and Femi and Dorcas was kept inside another place to be tortured. So the whole situation kept going, and Jack was made to come to see Agatha. Agatha is like the head of them. She is the devil, she is the demon, she is the wicked person. And I hate her feature in the book, though I love her characterization. So Jack was made to meet with Agatha, and Agatha began to tell her a lot of things. Before she left, AC warned him and said, do not agree with most of the things that Agatha is going to tell you. That woman is a devil, she's a liar. And so Jimmy actually played quite smartly. Marcia and Agatha invited Jimmy for a dinner, and they began to tell him a lot of stories, many of which he knew, and he pretended as if he did not know in order to act, like a novice. He began to tell him a lot of things about his family, about David, about the realm pillar. And they told him that, okay, we are going to release you and your friend if you would travel into the realm of the departed and help us get the pillar. Jack had no option. He loves AC, he loves his family member, he loves his few friends, and he was ready to do whatsoever these wicked people tell him to do in order for his friends to be free and for him also to gain freedom. And so he agreed, and they sent him through the realm graph to travel into another realm, and they told him to move on the journey. So once Jack got to the realm of the departed, something quite exceptional happened here, which made the book to read in a sort of an awesome manner. Something quite interesting happened here, and this part actually held me captive until I finished indulging my emotions in the book. Jack was met with his granddad. Before then, something told him to leave, that you're not wanted here. But when Jack met with his granddad told him a lot of things, knowledge, history, and that's why I found this book to be absolutely interesting. It actually reads as if you're watching a seasoned film whereby you find them telling story along the act, the scene. Honestly, I'll be excited if The Lost and the Departed can be made into a movie. Ordinarily, one of the amazing things that I love about the book is the fact that the book reads cynically. Okay, to talk about that, Jack actually found the pillar and he returned to Agatha and Marcia. First of all, Agatha was quite angry because it took Jack such a quick method to go and come back, because she was like, why are you so fast? But she forgot that the time difference in the actual world where they are cannot be compared to the time measurement in the realm of the departed, and she was made to understand that through the help of Marcia. Jack told them what he found out, and after they come to a sort of a ground, they told him, okay, you can go and join AC in the dungeon, we'll call for you later. And Jack was like, I thought you said we can leave after I found the pillar. No, do as I bid you, go and stay there. Okay, to cut the long story short, Femi and Dorcas were held in a captive, and the guards there, they cannot actually do anything in terms of recognizing the fae except they use an axe stone. So Femi and Dorcas begin to come together. They begin to look for a way to bring themselves out, and this is where the novel begin to read quite interestingly. Also, AC and Jack begin to look for a way out, and afterward they were joined by Sammy, by Timothy, by Jimmy and Rolly. And I would restrict from revealing further in an attempt to keep this review spoiler free, because I do not want to talk about everything in entirety. However, I'm looking forward to reading the third book series, Alice and the Mirror Glass, and I can't wait to get my end on it. But I'd love to say that I love Craig Deegan's storytelling techniques. I love his use of word. I love his characterization. Honestly, there is a feature that I love about Craig's storytelling techniques, which is something that he never faced hard. That is the fact that his story reads quite cynically. It reads quite interestingly, in a way whereby you can paint image in your head as you read its chapters. It looks as if you're watching a movie. This is one of those fantastic fantasy novel that I've ever read, and that's why I've been so much intrigued by the adeptness of some independent published author. If a lover of fantasy, if a lover of literature at large, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find absolute joy in reading The Lost and the Departed. And I'd love you to start from the first book series, Found 4, for you to have a grounded idea of how the story is best. I love some characters like AC, characters like Jack, like Jimmy, like Sammy. I haven't read much about David. I haven't known much about his characterization, but I'm looking forward to see how the story is continued in the third book series. I also love characters like Agatha. I love characters like Anastasia. I particularly love the way Anastasia speaks. Though I hated her personality, but I love her characterization. She speaks in a kind of cruel but humorous manner, one of which made for an interesting read. And I am so much in love with Craig Deegan's writing. I give this book a 5 over 5 star review, and it owes my sincere praise. It owes my sincere, recommendation. And this is actually a perfect literary work. If you watch this video to this point and you'd love to get a copy of the Cracklock Sagas, I left a link in the description part of this video where you can actually get a copy of the book on Amazon. I cannot describe this book enough. I don't want to talk about everything in entirety. I always plan and ensure that I make my review a spoiler free. If you watch this video to this point and you're yet to click on the subscribe button, I want to urge you to please click on the subscribe button over there. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can get notified anytime I release new videos. Thank you very much for watching my short video book recommendation of the Cracklock Saga, The Lost and the Departed, Book 2 by Craig Deegan. See you in my next video.